we will get started. You're going to lose sight of my handsome face for the next 45 minutes or so. Hey, but that's okay. Here we go. Showtime. Profitable hydronics in today's market. We're going to be talking about facts, fallacies, and finding common ground, finding some common ground, which is really what it's all about, finding common ground with your customers, whether they be homeowners, builders, etc. Finding that common ground. So whatever happens winds up being a win-win for both. Let's start off our discussion with a talk about climate control. Climate control. And we're not talking about indoor climate control. We're talking about business climate, the climate that we're dealing with out there in the world. We're dealing with out there in the business world. Is the economy improving? It depends on who you talk to. If you look at some of the leading economic indicators that the experts and the pundits discuss, they say that there are signs of improvement. Unemployment may be down, and manufacturing is picking up, spending is going up, etc. Is the economy improving? It appears to be, but it's still not what you would call robust. And as if it ever was this type of a situation, you're not at the point now where people are calling you up and say, I don't care what it costs, come do it because I have all the money I'll ever need. That's just not happening in most marketplaces. So we're still struggling with an economy that's kind of I'm going to say inconsistent, but it's wobbly. It's not standing solidly on its own two legs. New construction pretty much gone in most parts of the world. I am seeing, like here in Minnesota, I've seen a few little small 3-4 house developments actually get going recently. But not a ton. Certainly not the way it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But and it may or may not come back anytime soon. So it's not something that we can focus on or keep our fingers crossed and hope and pray that it comes back. Really, what we're going to be focusing on, most folks' businesses nowadays are focusing on improvements and replacements for existing heating systems. We enhance what's already there, or if it's old, we replace it. And we're going to be focusing on some concepts and some theories in the improvement and replacement market that can help you when you're working with the customer face-to-face. One thing we have noticed these days is that cash is, in fact, king. And queen and prince and princess and duke and duchess, etc. It is the all-important thing. People may have money, but they are also very careful nowadays about spending money. The cash on hand is the most important thing. People are spending on certain things. It's just, not as freely and as willingly, it would seem, as they did before the economic downturn. A lot of times when you are dealing with customers and talking about improving or enhancing or upgrading their heating system, the conversation almost immediately turns to ROI, or return on investment, or payback, quote unquote, payback, because of course cash is king. I'm going to suggest to you as we go through this presentation today that both ROI and payback are kind of flawed metrics for determining the value of a heating system enhancement or an improvement, as people traditionally consider them. When they're talking about ROI or talking about payback, it's not the stock market. They're not talking about it as they would as most folks would normally consider either of those terms. They talk about when's it going to pay for itself. Well, it's never going to pay for itself. It's a consumer of energy. It doesn't pay for itself. I know what they mean. One of the savings in energy going to offset what I have to pay to do this. I get that, but again, it's kind of a not a flawed argument, but it's certainly neither one of these arguments are anything you should pin your hopes on when it comes to landing a job. They have their place, but they should not be the #1 selling chit that you have, as we'll see when we go through our presentation. And I think we're also facing the fact out there that your competition, you've got competition out there that's dropping its drawers. I mean, they're selling, they're coming out with ridiculously low prices because they think they have to in order to get work. Heck, everything costs less in a recession, right? Right? Well, maybe not, but that's the operating theory. Can't charge too much money, won't get any work. Well, does that force you to cut your price? Do you have to follow that lead? My suggestion is no, it doesn't. So, your competition doesn't force you to cut your price. Price cutting is a self-inflicted wound, and it's a very dangerous very dangerous wound. Greg Phillips asked, what's the ROI on your car? Really, there isn't any. You know, until it's paid for, you know, and then you run it till it dies. That's pretty much it. So, Will Rogers once said, when you come to a fork in the road, you better take it. So we're at a fork in the road. What are we going to do when we're not quite sure what to do? Well, we're going to look at some fallacies, and we're going to try and develop a couple of strategies for you to follow when you face that fork in the road. We're going to focus on 4 fallacies today. Fallacy number 1, ROI/payback, that kind of thing, is the only factor, or it's the most important factor. Whether it's the customer who believes that, or whether it's the contractor who believes that, or is trying to express that in a positive manner. It may or may not be. It shouldn't be the only factor. And the more your customer, or the more you make it about return on investment, the more the job becomes about price. And the other stuff it becomes less important. That is a fact. Another fallacy, all customers are price buyers. That's all they care about. They want the lowest possible price. They don't want to hear about quality. They don't care about craftsmanship. They don't want to hear that I'm better than anybody else. They just want price, 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 price. That is a fallacy. It's easy for your customer to say they care about price. It's a heck of a lot harder for them to really believe it and act upon it. It's incumbent upon us to give them reasons other than price to hire us. I think that makes sense. Builders are the enemy. Builders drink the blood of the young. They are the Antichrist. Well, no, they're not. Your home builder, your building remodeler is not a whole lot different from you or me. And we'll examine that, and we'll find out that there is some common ground to be had there. And the last fallacy is one that I find very common out there, is people think, well, we got to cut them a little deal at the end. They're going to negotiate. They won't give me the job unless I drop my price $500 or $1,000 or whatever. So I got to cut them a deal to get the job. And you know what? They feel good because they feel like they've negotiated and they've cut themselves a deal. They feel good about themselves. That is a huge fallacy. And in fact, that's maybe the single most terrible thing you could do to yourself, is do the same job for less money than what you wrote down on your estimate, because now you're a liar. We'll talk about that at the very end of the presentation. So just before we get into the ROI, I just want to make sure that the pace is good. Can everybody hear me okay? Just type in something in your question thing. Just let me know that you're on board, you're happy, and we're doing good. So just give me a little bit of feedback there, and we will move on. Okay, Doug, all going good. Good to go. Mike? Yep, excellent. Very good, John. Excellent, excellent. Very good, very good. I love the feedback. Excellent, guys. You guys are doing good. Okay. There's a thing about fallacies. If 50 million people believe in a fallacy, it's still a fallacy. It doesn't matter. It just happens to be a really good fallacy, all right, a really convincing one. That's a fallacy. Just because a lot of people believe it to be true doesn't mean it is true, all right? And that's something to keep in mind, because we tend to believe a lot of fallacies because all of our friends believe in the fallacy. And we tend to surround ourselves with people who agree with the same fallacies that maybe we do. Okay, I'm as guilty about that as anybody. But that's just something to keep in mind. Go Leafs. I don't think so, Brendan, although the Bruins are taking a nosedive right now. But 50 million people believe in a fallacy. It's still a fallacy. Keep that in mind. And let's move on. Let's move the discussion to the first fallacy about return on investment. What does return on investment really mean? What does it mean? I don't know. I don't know what it really means. And I love, and that question's been around forever, back here when Og and Grog first developed the wheel. For the last time, no, I do not know what the ROI is on it. What is the return on investment? Well, yeah, you can certainly make some mathematical cases. You can say you spend this amount of money on this particular thing over the course of 5, 10, 15 years, you'll save this. Does that make sense? Sure. There, you can make some compelling arguments in that area. But let's take a real good look at ROI. If you go to the online dictionary, Investopedia, it's a dictionary of investment terms, helps you understand things about investments. They give the definition of ROI as thus: performance measure to evaluate the efficiency of an investment or to compare efficiency of a number of different investments. They're talking about investments in a way that you would traditionally think of an investment. You're buying a stock or a bond. You buy a bond for $50, you sell it for $100, okay? That kind of thing. That's an investment. Very different from a heating system. Different kind of an investment. So do you judge or evaluate a heating system or an appliance investment in these kinds of terms? I think it would be hard to do. If you want to calculate ROI, this is how you do it. Return on investment equals the gain from the investment minus the cost of the investment divided by the cost of the investment. Okay, what's the gain you get minus the cost, then divide that by the cost, and the goal here is to come up with a positive number, something greater than 0. The more that number is bigger than 0, the better the return on investment would be. If it's less than 0, it's a money-losing proposition. If you apply these conditions to heating systems, it starts to get a little funky because you have to deal with a lot of years here. We're going to just throw a wild assumption at you on a specific heating system. I'm not saying that this is what you should charge or what it should cost, and I'm not saying this is what you will save or what any kind of a heating system would save. I'm throwing numbers up on the screen to make a point. Just want to get that clear. Let's say there's a home. It's up somewhere in the Northeast, maybe Pennsylvania, New York State, something like that. Heated with fuel oil. It costs about $1,600 a year to heat. Okay, it's a small little shack. It costs about $1,600 a year to heat that home. You're going to put in a new boiler. It's going to cost $10,000, and you're going to cut that $1,600 in half. Okay, $10,000 installation, but you're going to slice that overall energy consumption in half. How about that? Now that's kind of cool. So we're going to cut it in half with a $10,000 boiler installation. Let's also factor in roughly a 5% annual increase in your utility costs, electricity, fuel, etc. We factor in a 5% annual increase, and let's pick a time frame. Let's look at, say, 15 years, which some may consider that to be the outside range of how long a ModCon boiler will last. So let's pick a 15-year time savings. If you look at 15 years, factor in that 5% annual increase in the cost, which means a 5% annual increase in savings, we're looking at roughly $17,195 over the course of 15 years that you're not spending in fuel. Okay, it's not really a savings because, as Robert Bean would say, there's not a bank account there that you can go withdraw that money from. It's simply money that you're not spending on fuel over the course of 15 years. Okay, fair enough. Let's apply the return on investment formula. The gain from the investment minus the cost of the investment divided by the cost of the investment. So the gain from the investment over that 15-year period is $17,195. Subtract the cost of the investment, $10,000, then divide it by the cost of the investment, which is $10,000. So it's going to be $7,195 divided by $10,000. That gives you a return on your investment, ROI, of 0.72. Is that good? Well, it's better than 0, and it's better than the negative number, all right? But if a guy is comparing, well, I can put my money in the stock market and get much better return, yeah, but that's the money in the stock market's not going to heat your house and not going to make your water hot, okay? There's a difference here. So you've got to think when they're starting to talk about return on investments and is this a good number, is what's my payback, blah, blah, blah. It's not if I invest my money in this or I invest my money in that. You need a heating system to keep warm and clean, okay? It's not a matter of I can go without one. You have to have one. And if you have a really old one that's about to die, now you have to figure out what am I going to use or what am I going to buy to replace it. Okay? One thing about return on investment, yeah, this does show a certain amount of value. However, the more you focus on stuff like this, the more it starts to become about price. Because now I'm thinking, well, okay, I've got a 0.72 ROI, $10,000. Maybe I can find somebody else that I can get to do it for $9,000. Or maybe I can force this guy to do the same job for me for $9,000. That's going to make that number a little bigger. Focusing on these numbers exclusively does, in fact, make it more and more about price. Again, depending upon your customer, but by and large, the more you focus on stuff like this, the more it becomes about price. I'm not saying this shouldn't be part of your discussion, part of your presentation, but it shouldn't be the focus. It shouldn't be the only thing. There's lots more to the story than just this. I hope that makes some sense. I hope that is logical to you. Another factor that people look at is this really vague, unusual or slippery little devil called payback. What is payback? Now, I know what people mean when they say payback. And when they say payback, when's this thing going to pay for itself? I don't think it ever pays for itself, okay? It's kind of a funny way of looking at it. Investopedia says payback is the time required for the return on investment to repay the sum invested. Again, if you're looking at a stock or a bond or an investment in a company, okay, I'm going to invest $10,000. How long before my stock grows in value to the point where I get that $10,000 back? Okay, when they talk about a heating system payback, how long before the annual amount of money I'm not spending on fuel offset the cost of the new system? Payback really only makes sense, guys, when you're talking about replacing an old system with either a standard system or a better system. And payback is going to be expressed in how do we justify the difference. Because they're going to have to replace the heating system anyway, whether it's today, next year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. It's going to have to be replaced. And it's going to be replaced with either, a standard efficiency, normal, plain vanilla heating system, or something of high efficiency, high performance. The payback formula can be used to justify the difference in cost between the two. Not the total cost of the high efficiency one, that doesn't make any sense, but the difference in cost between the two, if that makes sense to you. Because that's really where you're going to apply this particular formula. And the formula here is fairly simple. It's the cost of the project divided by the annual cash inflow, or in this example, the annual quote-unquote fuel savings that you might realize, okay, annually. In this example, the cost of the investment was $10,000, and we had $17,195 over 15 years. Well, divide that total by 15, just average it out. It's $1,146 per year on average. If we were to apply that formula to the total cost, we come up with 8.72 years. 8.72 years. If we were to look at a difference in cost between the high efficiency and a standard efficiency, and estimated difference in fuel consumption, we can get that number to something that's a little more realistic and that a customer can actually use. Should I get the standard system, or should I go for the high efficiency system? Okay. I hope that all makes sense. The problem with both of these is there's a lot of stuff missing. There's a lot of information missing. We're missing repairs or emergency breakdowns. If you've got an old heating system that a contractor goes in, service guy goes in every year to try and keep the burner going with chewing gum, paper clips, and duct tape, at some point they're going to reach a point where there are no more repair parts available for that old burner, or it's simply you're throwing good money after bad. Neither of those return on investment or payback take into account that. There's a certain amount of money you're going to have to add into those costs. Neither puts a value on the benefits that one would receive during and after the payback period. And those are tremendous, because with a heating system, you're talking about peace of mind. You're talking about I don't have to worry about this thing breaking down in the middle of the night in the middle of the winter. You're talking about maybe perhaps enhanced comfort. You're talking about all of the different things that we're going to discuss in a few moments that a new, clean, neat, efficient, smaller in size heating system will add to the home. You're discounting the potential value at resale. There's so many things. Domestic hot water. Maybe I've got all the domestic hot water I've ever wanted now. These are benefits that that are hard to put a price tag on and hard to factor in when you're trying to come up with return on investment or payback. The other thing is it's an educated guess, my friends, but it is a guess nonetheless at estimated fuel savings. We're taking a snapshot of it. You were hoping that what happened in this structure is going to happen in this structure. You discount the human factor, okay? You're discounting the fact that that perhaps, okay, we have a more efficient system, so instead of freezing at 68, I'm going to turn it up to 72 and make it better. We discount that. So that can alter all of this stuff as well. So these are all things that muck up return on investment and payback. And then we have unrealistic expectations on the part of the customer. The Economist magazine did a survey a while back about energy efficient investments and what people expect. And by and large, what the survey concluded was that people expect a 30% savings immediately, and they expect payback no less and no more than 2 to 3 years. Those are not realistic. No one believes, they're certainly not realistic in terms of most enhancements that you could come up with. A major overhaul or a boiler replacement, that sort of thing. But that is what people are by and large expecting. So you have to figure that in as well. So hanging your hat on return on investment, hanging your hat on payback is trouble. Okay. Most importantly, when you start talking about payback and investment, we start thinking about it in terms that we start to think of it like it's a stock or a bond, and we're going to get money back. And that simply doesn't happen. You're never going to reach a period of, say, 7 years, and the utility company is going to look at its records and say, hey, wow, look at this. We owe the Finnegans some money. Frank, get the big checkbook out. That's never going to happen. They're not going to write you a check. You're never going to get money back in the mail. All right? And most certainly a boiler is a boiler. It's not a slot machine. It's never going to come up triple cherries, and you're never going to have money spewing out the relief valve. It simply doesn't happen. A boiler is none of these things. A boiler is a pig. Okay? A boiler is a consumer. It consumes resources. In return, it gives you heat. Okay? A boiler is a pig. It eats fuel. It poops heat and hot water. That's all it does. All right? What we're fixing to do with this pig is put it on a high-fiber, low-fat diet. Okay, that's what we're fixing to do here. The pig is not going to write you a check. There's no payback to a pig. You've got a pig in the house now. That pig's going to die. You have to have another pig. All right? Let's put in a pig that doesn't eat quite so much. Okay? Does that make sense? I mean, that's just, a way of looking at it. Okay? And in addition, you want to look at what else is on the table besides the bacon. Okay? How old is the existing equipment? A 7-year-old cast iron boiler is a baby. There's no reason to take that thing out and throw it away. All right? And replace it with something of higher efficiency. You certainly have opportunities there to add, let's say, a PC700 boiler reset control to that existing boiler to make it more efficient, to add a delta T variable speed circulator to help the boiler be more efficient. There's a story to be told there. But if it's relatively new, a relatively new boiler, there's no sense in ripping it out and putting in something of higher efficiency. However, if it's a 50-year-old, American Standard Arca-liner that you've been holding together with duct tape for the past 5 years, it's going to have to be replaced at some point. So now it's a point of it's a question of what are we going to replace it with? Okay. Is the old system noisy? Is it smelly? Well, there's benefits to the consumer of coming up with a quieter system that looks nicer and it doesn't smell and doesn't make all that noise. Those are things that move people. Okay. Those are things that people gravitate to, in addition to, and actually even more so, I think, than return on investment. Does it take up a lot of space? Is it a physically big? Can I replace this physically big old cast iron oil-fired boiler and the oil tank with a smaller wall-hung modulating condensing gas-fired boiler and create a lot more usable space in this person's home? And is that of value? Don't ever underestimate that value to that customer, because he's looking for as much usable space as he can get in his home. And perhaps he might wind up with a mechanical room that he can finish into an office, like I have here in Minnesota. Does the new system perform double duty? Does it do heat and hot water? We can get rid of another appliance. We can get rid of the water heater and have one boiler to do heat and hot water. So there's one appliance, there's one burner, there's one thing to pipe up, there's one thing to vent. There's benefits there in terms of service, in terms of potential maintenance, etc. Is it simply a nicer looking unit? Don't ever forget that people want nice looking stuff in their homes, especially when you're talking about heating equipment. People say, well, no, the people can't see the heating equipment. They're not going to be. Listen, maybe I'm not normal, but when people come to my house, the first thing I want to show them is my mechanical room. Okay? People with nice new boilers like to show them off. That's whether they're in the business or not. And, do they have enough hot water now, or are they in that situation where maybe they have an old tankless coil and you can't take more than a 4-minute shower, and you sure as heck can't do the dishes, do the laundry, and take a shower at the same time? With this new system, give them the opportunity to have all the hot water they've ever wanted, ample amounts of hot water for showers, for bathing, for all the other stuff that they want to do. And are there comfort enhancements that this new system will bring? Folks, these are the things that you see on this page. These are the things that will move people. ROI, payback, that's price-oriented. You focus on that, you're focusing on price. Because the lower the price, the faster the payback. The lower the price, the bigger the return on investment. When you focus on those things, you're directing the discussion to be about price. Obviously, those things, those two items are selling points. They're selling chits for you when you're talking about your heating system and your options. But it certainly shouldn't be the number one or number two or number three item. It should be part of it. But these are the things that move people. And these are the things that make it less about price. And these are the things you want to focus on. Does that make sense, people? Give me a little feedback. Is this logical to you? Is this beneficial to you? I want to make sure that we're all kind of together and getting it. So give me a little bit of feedback here as we move on. Okay, C says Julio. Gracias. Okay, very good, very good. All right. And hit one last item. Again, is it going to break down at the worst possible time? You know, when do heating systems break down? They don't break down in July when you got plenty of time. They break down in the middle of winter, middle of the night, coldest day of the year, 10-foot snow drifts, house full of guests, Christmas Eve. That's when this stuff breaks down. And that's the thing people are really very concerned about that, especially if they're older folks or they're out in the middle of nowhere. They're concerned about this thing breaking down and being stuck. Okay? So these are the things that move people. Hey, you might want to replace this now because A, I have the time. B, this is a great opportunity. There's still some incentives out there through some of the utility companies, so we're good to go there. And and third, you don't want to have this thing break down in the middle of winter when it's an emergency. It's not an emergency now. Maybe it'll be an emergency later on. Okay. A couple of comments. Edward Kelly says ROI is always secondary and only bring it up if the customer asks. I'm with you there. I'm with you there. How do you redirect the conversation, asked Laney. That's a very good question. How do you redirect the conversation? Well, it's one of those things where that's what they're asking. You certainly answer. You don't avoid the question. You don't say, well, that's not important. You do want to be able, you want to use those formulas and be able to address the question. But you say, and here, make sure you frame it in a way that says, well, I know what you're talking about, return on investment, but again, understand it's a heating system. It's not a stock or a bond. So you have to frame it slightly differently. You want the customer to understand it in slightly different terms. You want to compare it to the right thing. Like we said earlier, it's not a $10,000, you're not talking about a payback on a $10,000 heating system or a $10,000 boiler replacement. You're talking about the payback between an $8,000 boiler replacement and a $10,000 boiler replacement. So the sum you have to justify is the $2,000 difference between standard and high efficiency. Okay, that's where the number you want to focus on. All right, and you can certainly make that case. And if you talk about simply adding a boiler reset control, now there's a little there it is. It's a little bit easier to do. You say, hey, this thing, it's independent studies say outdoor reset on a cast iron boiler will reduce your fuel consumption 10 to 15%. How much did you use last year? Okay, you spent $2,000 on fuel oil last year. If you had this thing on your boiler last year, you would have only spent what's 15% is 18, 17, about $1,500, okay, or $1,750. So it would have saved you, say, $250 last year. You can't predict the future, but you can look backwards and say, this little device might have cut your fuel bill by $250 last year. Okay, here's how much it costs you. Figure in savings you'll recoup that over more 3-4 years perhaps. Okay, so you don't eliminate the question and you don't ignore the question. You do answer the question. When they bring it up, you've got to address it and address it head on in a confident manner. But make sure you're addressing it appropriately, putting it in the correct context, talking about the right stuff, and get them thinking right about it. So they're not thinking it's like a stock or a bond or something like that. Okay. Great question. Great question. Okay, a couple more. Let's see. We got redirect by asking them questions. Sure. Dave Yates says the best way to take control of any conversation is to, when they start asking you questions, you start asking them questions right back. What do you mean by payback? What do you mean by return on investment? All right, help me understand what you're saying. Okay. You wish the government incentives would either stay for the long haul or get lost altogether. Well, okay. I don't know how they do things up in Canada, Brendan, but here they're giving away cash. They're giving away bundles of money. John says, you said it the way it could be said perfectly. Well, thanks. I just wish I could remember what I said. Mike Trippany says, you need to sell your education of staff into the offer as well as equipment. Sure. You're not just selling equipment, people. You're selling the installation of the equipment because they can get equipment anywhere. It's your expertise in putting that equipment together is really what they're buying. Yeah, can you use it? Absolutely. Please do. Please do. Todd Facey. Hi, Todd. How you doing? Homeowners want to be educated. Give them all the options and allow them to feel comfortable with what needs to be done to meet their needs. They may say no, but feel as though they have been engaged. All is transparent. They'll turn into a repeat customer. Absolutely. People do want information. They want to know what's going on. The more you educate them, the more you show your expertise, the better in a better position you are. And Ed Kelly says, like to compare it to buying a car, 20 to 30 grand every 5 to 7 years. Spend 10 now for something that makes money, figuratively speaking. Yeah, sure, makes sense to me. Got a question for you now about price buyers. Are people really price buyers? People say price buyers. All right, people say they're price buyers. They'll act like they're price buyers. They'll tell you they're price buyers. They may actually believe that they're price buyers, but they're not. Most people certainly are not price buyers. Here's a person who may have been a price buyer at the time, but I guarantee you the next tattoo she gets will never be a price buyer again. Okay? Logic says people are not price buyers. Okay? They're not price buyers. They may say they are, but anybody who, if people were price buyers, there would be one person selling all there was to sell of any one thing. That's the person with the lowest price. So logic dictates that people are not, that price is not the number one concern all the time. I'm not saying price is not a concern. I'm just saying it's not the number one concern all the time for everything. Okay? And the reason people are not price buyers has to do with the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Fill in the blanks. Everybody knows this statement. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And if you're still not concerned about, not convinced about the logic behind that statement, okay? If you're still not convinced about the logic behind that statement, just think about Mr. Spock and think about his logic. Would you take the low bid for your vasectomy? No. No. Nobody would. I wouldn't. I don't know about you, but I sure as heck wouldn't. All right? No, people will not take the low bid for their vasectomy. And if you can answer that question, then people are not price buyers, because they'd be price buyers about everything. And I want to make a point here, and maybe this is making a point with a sledgehammer, but I do want to make the point. For golfers out there, how much, if you're a price buyer, how much for a new driver? Let's say you're a golfer and you want a new Thunderstick. You want the big dog, all right? How much would you spend for a new driver? Well, if you want a new driver, heck, you can go to any Goodwill type store, secondhand store, used store, junk store, and you can get some, these old wooden woods from a bygone era, for less than $10. Heck, you could get yourself a driver, a 3-wood and a 5-wood for less than $10. Okay, it may be circa 1969 stuff, but it ain't going to cost you very much. So if price was really all you cared about, there you go. You're all set. Okay, is that something people would buy? Okay, is that something people would buy? I don't think so. If you're a golfer, that's not where you're going. All right. But are you a price buyer? Let's say, okay, that's silly. That's an old-fashioned thing we're not buying. I want to buy something new and I want to buy something modern. Well, you look around online. Here, rockbottomgolf.com is a great website. And if people were price buyers, this would be the #1 selling golf club in history. All right, this is a driver. This is the Dunlop Loco Pro that you can buy right now for $14.44. Okay, $14.44. Would anybody in this audience who was a golfer go buy that? Would you buy that? And if you say no, why wouldn't you? Let's hear some feedback on that. Why wouldn't you buy that? Okay? Yeah, no, William says no. Why not? Why not, William? Why wouldn't you buy that? It's the lowest price, right? But something that's $14.44, it's probably a piece of crap, right? Probably a piece of junk. So no, you're not gonna, I know it's the cheapest one, so it's not going to go. All right? Okay, it's left-handed too. I know, that wouldn't work either. Well, let's say you're not going to buy the piece of junk. You're going to look around. Golfsmith.com. This is the Tour Edge Bazooka. It must be a good one because it's called the Bazooka. Okay, so it's got to hit the ball far. Okay, that's $149.95. Is $149.95 too much to pay for a driver? Is $149 too much to pay for a driver? I suggest that no, it is not, because you keep looking around and you can find last year's models, the 2010, 2011 golf club models on golfsmith.com, like this one, the Ping G15, for $200, $199.99. Okay? Is $200 too much to pay for a driver? I don't know. You keep looking at Golfsmith, you find this year's crop of the brand new standard drivers. They're going for $299.99. Okay, $299.99. Is $300 too much to pay for a driver? Because remember, we can get one for $14.40. $300 too much to pay for a driver? I suggest not. This year's crop of adjustable drivers, the kind that you can change the head around, they're going for $400. And that white TaylorMade that you see there, that's this year's model. Last year's model, the R11, this is the R11S. The R11 also sold for $400, and it was for a one-year time period. It was the #1 selling driver of all friggin' time. Okay, so the most expensive driver, all right, the most expensive driver was $400. There were others. Apples to oranges? Don't think so, John. I don't think it's apples to oranges. The point we're making here is, if people were really price buyers, the lowest price thing would be the thing that they would spend, that would be sold the most. Okay, Golfio.com. Here's the Akira TM, $600, and that's on sale. $600 too much to pay for a driver? Don't think so. Go back to Golfsmith. Here's the Royal Collection Tour VS, $770. Is $770 too much to pay for a driver? I don't think so. FairwayGolfUSA.com, the Yonex Nano V, $900. For $900, you could get 2 of those TaylorMades at $400 each and have $100 left over to buy balls. Okay, so $900 too much to pay for a driver? Here's another one, the Williams Gold FW32, $1,500. $1,500. Is $1,500 too much to pay for a driver? I don't know. The Merriman Majesty Prestigio Gold. Go to Golfio.com, look that one up. $2,400. Is $2,400 too much to pay for a driver? Is that too much to pay for a driver? I don't know. Let's look at the top of the heap. The Honma Royal Dragon Zhang Limited Edition from Japan. 540,565 yen. That's $85,784.96. Is that too much to pay for a driver? Is that too much to pay for a driver? Well, I tell you what, the guy selling the Honma Royal Dragon Zhang Limited Edition does not think that's too much to spend on a driver. Okay? Whether you believe it's too much to spend on a driver or not has nothing to do with it. It's your customer's money and it's your customer's decision. Okay? That's the point of this whole thing. If it was just price, the $14 driver would be the single biggest selling driver in the history of the world. It ain't. Okay? People aren't looking at just price. They're looking at performance. They're looking at style. They're looking at, image and braggability, things like that. Okay, so you got to think about those kinds of things. Is 10 minutes too much to drive a point home? I don't think so. I don't think so, Lanny. It was actually, the thing is, it was a lot of fun to put it together. But just to prove a point, you don't, people are not price buyers. Okay, people are not price buyers. And here are 5 surefire ways to know that they're not price buyers. First off, if they tell you this, hey, I got 3 other prices, pal, and you're 30% higher than all of them. And they tell you that, they're not a price buyer. If they were a price buyer and they had 3 other prices that were 30% cheaper than you, why the heck are they talking to you? Clearly there's something else going on here, okay? They may be trying to weasel you down, you know, trying to start to negotiate to see if your price will move a little bit, but they're not price buyers. If they were price buyers, they have the sweeter deal in hand, why don't they just go get it, okay? The logic of language dictates that they're not price buyers. How about this? What makes you think I'm going to spend that kind of money on a boiler? What makes you think I'm going to spend that kind of money on a heating system? Why would I or anybody else in their right mind spend that kind of money on a heating system? Look, gang, if you ever complain that your customers don't care about quality, they don't care about value, they don't care about how good you are, they only care about price. Look, when they tell you that statement, when they say that statement, that is as open as they're ever going to be to hear you talk about quality and dependability and craftsmanship and service and professionalism. That's the most open they're ever going to be. Right now they're saying to you, show me, tell me, sell me on why I should spend that kind of money with you. I got to hear this. Okay? Surefire way to know that they're not a price buyer. They may want it, they may be putting their negotiating clothes on, but they're not a price buyer. A couple more ways. Hey, pal, you're going to have to get that price in line or we can't do business. Now, that's a threat right there. He says, I'm willing to do business with you, but you've got to get your price in line. Okay. Notice that's very different from saying we can't do business. That's saying you have to get your price in line or we can't do business. It's a threat. Okay, it is a threat, but that's not saying, they're not telling you no. They're not telling you no. They're holding that hammer over your head and saying, you know, hey, you know, if you want my business, we got to go, you got to drop your price. This one involves looking around. Okay, they're not price buyers. If the house decor is not by Walmart, Goodwill, or the dollar store, then clearly they're not price buyers. Clearly they're not. And lastly, and maybe the most effective way of knowing that they're not price buyers, is they keep talking to you even after they've told you your price is too high. Okay? They keep the conversation going. They keep dive bombing you to try to get you to lower your price. If they're doing that, you've got to ask yourself one question. Why are they trying so hard to get you to lower your price? Why are they doing that? What's the reason? If it was just a sweeter deal, if they just wanted the cheaper price, they have the cheaper price. They can go get that. They're talking to you because there's something about you that they want, that they need, that they find of value. Okay? They're just trying to find out where the number is. Does that make sense? Okay? Okay. These 5 things all point to the fact that all customers lie. Hey, you know, well, there's that. Okay, there's that. Listen, when a guy says to you, hey, I got 3 other prices and you're 30% higher than any of them, what he's saying to you, he's saying to you, what he's saying to you is, oh, he's either doing one of 2 things to you. He's either telling you the truth or he's lying to you. All right? And either way, it's good for you. Because if he's telling you the truth, okay, well, that means he really wants to. You know, he wants you. He's just trying to see if he can get you at the other guy's price. And if he's lying to you, that's even better. He says, I don't even want to bother talking to anybody else. I'm just going to see if I can invent a story to get this guy to lower his price. So no matter what they tell you, if they're telling you the truth or they're lying to you, in either case, it's good. It's good. Okay? Very good, very good. All righty. Show me the quote and let's compare. Sure, that's one way to do it. Now, when you get any of these statements or any of these things thrown at you, your job is to hang in there, okay? Explain what you do, why you do it, why you're unique, why you are uniquely qualified to do their job and to satisfy their wants and satisfy their needs. You want to share with them why others find value in you. They want to know who else out in your community has hired you at these prices. They don't want to be the only schmuck in town paying you these prices. They want to know other people have done it too. Okay, and that's where testimonials and things come in. If you don't have testimonials, people, you should get them from satisfied customers. What they liked about you, why they hired you, etc. Okay, could you email me that picture, please? I'll have it up on the neighborhood. I love that picture. Okay, and as someone mentioned earlier in our questions, have good, better, best options. Have good, better, best options available. Okay, because they want it. They want the choices. They want to be able to look at this or that or that. Typically, if you give them good, better, best, for the most part, they focus in on the middle option of the best and the good. They generally will buy more of the best than they will of the low end, especially if it's for their own house and they're going to be there a while. Okay, because people will buy better stuff than they need if it's for themselves. That's why they have a $14,000 or $85,000 driver. All right, let's talk about builders. Let's talk about builders. The customer may not always be right, says John Langan. However, the customer is always the customer. That is the truth. That is the truth. I have a question for you about builders, and I'm interested to hear your response. Are builders the spawn of Satan? Do they eat the flesh of the living and drink the blood of the young? What do you think? Type in your responses. I'd be interested in hearing that. 50-50. Yeah, some are, some aren't. No, they just don't plan ahead without our help. There you go. Some are. Yeah. Well, let's think about builders. Why do builders build houses? Why do builders build houses? Why do they build additions? Why do they do remodeling? Okay. I don't know. Why do they do this? Well, I'll tell you what. They do it because they can't sing or dance. Builders build houses because that's how they make their living. Okay? That's how they make their living. They are risk takers. They're small business people, not unlike other people I know. They're risk takers, and they have a whole series of concerns, a whole series of things that keep them up at night. Weather delays bother them. Long-term interest rates bother them. The lack of dependable labor, especially among their subcontractors, really bothers them. They have unreasonable client expectations that they have to meet, and these clients drive them crazy. Okay? They have rising materials costs that they have to deal with. They have all kinds of things that keep them up at night. All right? They are risk takers. They're small business people. They're not all that different from heating contractors. Okay? Now, heating contractors are unusual people. I know if a heating contractor goes to the other side, and if he's lived a bad life and he goes to the bad place, I'm pretty certain this is the first question he's going to ask. Use oil or gas heating down there. But if we look at heating contractors, why do heating contractors heat houses? Well, because they can't sing or dance, okay? Same thing. They are risk takers, and they have the same list of concerns as builders do. All right, weather delays, interest rates, lack of dependable labor, unreasonable client expectations, rising materials costs. The same thing that keeps builders up at night keeps heating contractors up at night. Do you think, people, we could find a little bit of common ground with these guys? Okay, rather than look at them as the spawn of Satan. Even if they act like the spawn of Satan, where subcontractors are concerned. Believe me, I've run into plenty of them. These guys, builders, they are considered, their customers look at them as being the fountain of all knowledge related to their construction project. This guy has to be an expert on insulation, he has to be an expert on green building, he has to be an expert on windows, he has to be an expert on electrical appliances, he has to be an expert on electrical systems, he has to be an expert on heating systems, air conditioning, hydronics, he has to be an expert on roof pitch, he has to be an expert on all these things, and they can't be because they're not that smart, okay? They're not that smart. They rely upon trusted associates to help them with that information, and that is where the common ground can be found, friends. Help the builder meet his needs. Help the builder solve his problems. Okay? The valued subcontractor is going to be the guy that helps the builder make money. Now you're more of a partner than you are a necessary evil. Okay, what are his needs? What are his problems? Can you guarantee on-time delivery? Can you guarantee on-time performance? Can you help him sell upgraded equipment to his customers so he can make more money? Okay, he's not really worried about you making more money. He's worried about him making more money. So if you can find that common ground, you can certainly find that builders are not all that different from you. Okay, builders think they're the only ones that should make money on a job. Well, let's find that common ground, okay? I think you help them make money, they'll help you make money. A lot of builders look at it and say, hey, a heating system's a heating system, I need the cheapest one, blah, blah, blah. Okay? They don't know that that a heating system can be an upgrade, that a heating system can be a profit center. They need your help to do that. Builders are concerned about making profit on your work, but they are not properly educated in putting the best system in for the job that they have. Of course not, because they're not experts on this stuff. We are. Okay? They're not experts. They need to make money. Okay, they need to make money. Do you know in today's economy if the closing rate on bids has changed with the economy of today, and if so, what are you hearing on percentage rates? I can't answer that, Mike. Perhaps someone else in the group can. In terms of closing rates for jobs, I think one person's closing rate and another person's closing rate have nothing to do with each other. I think you know if you're closing a lot more than you were in the past, you've got to figure, is it because I'm getting better as a salesperson, or am I pricing myself too low? All right. There's job closing rates, I think, are as individual as the people actually doing the selling, in my opinion, anyway. Okay. And then lastly, the one cardinal sin that you should never ever commit. The one cardinal sin. Please, folks, never cut your price at the end to close the deal. Okay, they're negotiating. You say, all right, I'll knock $1,000 off the price. If we can sign this thing today, I'll knock $1,000 off the price. Guy signs the deal. Do you think he's happy? No, because you lied to him. All right. The real price for the job is the job you're willing to do it for. If you put down $10,000 and the guy has to beat you up to get you to $9,000, and you agree to $9,000 for the exact same job, you're a liar, okay? And you're a thief, because in his mind, this guy was trying to steal $1,000 from me. It's a $9,000 job. He was trying to get 10 from me. I better watch him. All right, and good luck, friend, trying to get the last payment out of this guy, too, because now he's not only thinking, I can't trust this guy, he's a liar, he's a thief. If I had pushed a little harder, how much more could I have gotten him down? You know, could I have got him down another $500 or another $1,000? It just opens up a can of worms that you don't want to open up. All right, you're not helping yourself. Can you lower your price? Sure, take something out. That's why that good, better, best option, friends, really is to your benefit here. Where, okay, I don't want, you can't afford the best. Okay, I understand that. Here's our better option. But I really want all that stuff, but I can't pay that price. Okay, well, I knew you said you really like this stuff, but if you can't pay that price, this is a really good option here for you. Trying to keep the bar level, so to speak. The real price is the price you're willing to do the job for. If you write down $10,000, but you accept $9,000 for that job, you are a used car salesman. You are a thief. You are not to be trusted. Okay, that's his mindset, and those are generally going to be jobs that you have a problem with. All righty, that ends the presentation portion of our talk. Got a lot more. We've been at this just about an hour, so it worked out pretty good. Let's give me your questions, man. Throw your questions out at us. Okay. This is Heating Gospel, says Dale. Which part? Tell me which part it was. I'll make sure to say it again. And there's always a lower price, but you do have to give up something. Absolutely. Again, good, better, best. Always take something. Never lower your price without taking something out. That makes a ton of sense. Hey, real quick, I want to show you something. And if Dave Yates, you're here, you'll appreciate this. This just came in the mail today. This is my major award. This is the Carlson Houlihan Industry Award that I was given custody of for the next 2 years. This is the original one of, where is it? This is the original one of these. This is your Bell & Gossett System Sizer Wheel. Okay, maybe the most useful little tool ever invented in hydronics. This little wheel was invented by a guy named Gil Carlson from Bell & Gossett way back in the 50s. And this is the original wheel. Okay, this is the original one that Gil developed for his own personal use to help size pipe, to help calculate flow rates, to help calculate head loss, etc. And this was in Dan Houlihan's hands for a lot of years. He gave it to Robert Bean, and Robert and Dan together decided to turn it into an industry award, and I was lucky enough to get it this year. Following in the footsteps of previous winners, Dave Yates, who's out there in cyberspace. Hi, Dave. Dave was the initial recipient of this, 2006 to 2008, followed by Mark Etherton, then Ken Webster, and then I have it for the next 2 years. So this is one of those priceless little artifacts. If you check my blog, the FlowPro blog, back in January, there's a post on what that thing's all about and how it came to be. So it's kind of a neat little Neat little thing. All right. So let's get back to some of the questions. Okay, the part about not lowering your price. Thank you, Dale. Okay, I'll make sure I say that again. Yep, Dave Yates, right there. He was the original recipient, and I'm just trying to ride your coattails, Dave, as best I can. Dan Shepard, it's not exactly pocket size. No, it's not. It's a big thing. You're going to carry it around for 2 years. Okay. Could you repeat? Was it is it Ilko Johnson? I think if I got your name properly. Can you repeat how to improve efficiency on an existing boiler? One was a delta T circulator. Sure. There's two things you can. Well, there's many things you can do to help improve the efficiency of an existing cast iron boiler. One would be to add a Taco PC700 boiler reset control to a heating system, to a cast iron boiler that does not have one. You can add an outdoor reset control for that. You take the PC700 right out of the box. It's actually programmed for a cast iron boiler in the Northeast. You really don't have to program it at all. Just plug it in and you're off to the races. And those things, independent studies have shown boiler reset on a cast iron boiler can cut fuel consumption 10 to 15% annually. Not bad. Combine that with a variable speed delta T circulator, the Taco OOVDT circulator, or this guy right here, coming out later on this year, the Bumblebee, which is a variable speed delta T circulator. And they make sure that the water temperature going back to the boiler is always that 20-degree delta. So when the boiler does fire, it fires more efficiently, more effectively, less often, but for longer periods of time. And that can enhance the boiler efficiency as well. I got a friend in Philadelphia who put a delta T circulator on his cast iron boiler with 3 zones of baseboard, and in a colder winter, last year was a colder winter than the winter before, he saw his actual oil consumption drop about 15%, which is pretty remarkable. You think about that. So those are some things that you can do to help make boilers more efficient. And again, Ilko, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. On the neighborhood, in Taco's The Neighborhood, there is a webinar, an archived webinar on 5 ways to make any heating system more efficient. You'll find details on how to do both of those on that website. So if you haven't joined already, you will be getting a link later today, an email later today that will show you how to do that. Okay, terrific, terrific. Where can I get one? Couldn't have gone to. Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate that. Hey, make me an offer. I'll see what you can do with this one. Okay. Bumblebee outdoor reset and the setback stat. Sure, setback thermostat, properly applied setback thermostat can certainly help us. Do that. Let's see. Eben Waugh says, excellent sales tips. Yellow boilers sell on ROI in time to justify higher prices versus standard. Just on you said, yeah. You want to. It's standard versus higher efficiency. That's the only difference you have to justify, and it's a little bit easier, to do. Okay. Dale's asked, why, you talked about people wondering why you're worth this price. Every job should be a showpiece. Take pictures, make it look like a professional did the work. Absolutely. Guys, you got to have a brag book or a brag website. Some guys carry around little USB drives that they can give away to their customers that have a little presentation built in on that they can view at their convenience, so they know that they're dealing with a professional, and definitely include testimonials from happy customers. Okay, that's the important thing. Okay, let's see. Have to go. Interesting topic. Thank you, Dave. $2,000 difference, $800 review. Okay, Dave Yates says if we had a $2,000 difference, an $8,000 boiler versus a $10,000 boiler, $800 in reduced fuel cost. Now the return on investment is 8%, or a factor of 8, which is a lot better. So that's really the way you want to look at it. You want to look at it as the difference between standard and higher efficiency. The other thing that the customer wants to know is, what's the benefit to me to replace this old boiler now as opposed to waiting till next year, or waiting 2 years, or waiting till it just craps out? There's the other element to that. Why do I want to do it now? Okay, why do I need to do it now? Again, those are the things. The ROI isn't necessarily going to move that person. The other stuff is going to move that person. Okay, we're going to get you, get rid of that noisy, smelly beast. We're going to put in a much more efficient, much more economic, much more attractive, and much smaller unit to give you a lot more room down here that we're going to put together with the best modern equipment. It's going to it's not going to break down on you in the middle of the night. Okay, those are all important things that you can point to, and those are the things that are going to move people. Yeah, it's going to make, I'm not going to put in something of worse efficiency than I have now. Well, duh. I do expect my fuel bills to go down a little bit, but this other stuff, in addition to that, is going to move people. Okay. John Langan asks, I almost always get asked about ROI when comparing pricing and replacement of a standard boiler versus a high-efficiency boiler. Do you consider the gas savings in an 8.72-year range? Well, the numbers I used, that was the total sales price at $10,000 divided by the fuel savings I made up. Okay, I cut it in half. All right. So what you want to look, and I'm not saying it should be 8.72 years, John. It's just what this example wound up being. So when it comes to, the ROI, again, you want to focus on all of the other things, all those other benefits, but make sure that you're applying ROI properly, okay, or payback properly. Make sure they understand that, well, this isn't like a stock market investment. This thing's not going to make you money. It's a pig, and pigs eat. You have to feed this pig. But in return, this pig is going to give you heat and hot water, okay? The money you invest in the stock market's not going to give you heat and hot water, okay? This is something you need to have, all right? The thing you have in your house right now is about to die, okay? So, yeah, you don't want to put in something that's going to be a waste, but when we're talking about return on investment, understand that you're not going to get a check. Okay, you're not going to get money's not going to come spewing out the relief valve. It's a pig. It eats fuel. What we're trying to do is make it eat as little fuel as possible while providing you with all the hot water you'll ever need and all the comfort that you could possibly desire in your house. That's the thing. Whatever you talk about return on investment, it's got to be framed, in my mind anyway, it needs to be framed like that, because it's not an investment. You're never going to start getting dividend checks. It's simply, I'm either going to spend $1,600 next year to heat my house, or I'm going to spend $900 next year to heat my house. That's it, okay? And if I'm going to, or it could be $1,600 next year to heat my house, plus another $500 or $800 in emergency repairs, because the thing keeps crapping out on me. Those are the things that you talk about, again, in my opinion. Okay, some more good stuff here. All right. Interview. Let's see, David. Interview equals their concerns. Fill in the blanks. Get the job. Sure. Tell you what, when you're talking to a customer, Dave's one of the best at this that exists out there. Ask a lot of questions. Okay, what's important to them? What are their concerns? What do they want? Then you fill in the blanks. Give them. That's what you give them. And here's another tip. When you're doing that interview, write everything down. Like you're Columbo and you're interviewing the perpetrator. Write everything down so you can always refer to your notes. Oh yeah, Mrs. Johnson, I remember you said that this was really important to you. And I quote, "This is really important to me." There you go. So that's a little bit of ammunition when it comes to, closing the sale. Okay. John Kavanaugh says, recent system I got a call on. I didn't get a chance to see it yet, but the complaint is the system needs constant air bled and the zone furthest away is too cold, 3/4 inch main into 1/2 inch baseboards. I'm thinking the wrong pump from the builder. What do you think? That's one thing I'd look at. Pump location could be a problem. 3/4 inch main, 1/2 inch baseboard. You got enough volume. I mean, what's the heat load? This starts back to John doing the math. What's the heat loss of the house? What's the heat load of the zones? That's that thing. I mean, if the pipe's not big enough to carry the BTUs, the pipe's not big enough to carry the BTUs. Bigger pump's not going to help you a heck of a lot. So those are all things to consider. Okay. I remember going to a house here in Minnesota. It was about a 3,500 square foot house. We were there on a social visit, and I don't know if you guys do this. I do this all the time, and it drives people nuts. Walk into a house and I see baseboard. And in Minnesota, it's fairly rare. So first thing I ask is, hey, can I go down to your basement and take a look at your heating system? And I've learned over the years that that's an unusual request. Not, at a party, not many people do that, but everybody in this room, okay, does that. As it turned out, it was a baseboard system, an old Weil McLean Gold gas-fired boiler, 3/4 inch 3,400 square foot house in Minnesota, 3/4 inch main, half-inch tapping, half-inch runs to each zone. Asked, how does this thing work? Oh, it works great till it hits about 20 degrees. Then we got to put in our space heaters, but that's just the way it is. They weren't outraged. I thought that was normal. It is what it is, you know. Okay. Domestic hot water, pipe in the valves while the system's down. Sell this. The wife cannot resist. You'll never run out of hot water. Absolutely. Hey, me too. I can't resist hot water either. I take, you know, now that I got this beast behind me, this thing makes all the hot water I'll ever need. I'm taking longer showers, and I'm cleaner than I've ever been in my life. All right. Doug Mackey, very good webinar, very useful info. Got to go. Did you lose some weight? Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Doug. About 60 pounds. And I still got another 5 or 6 to go. And I'll be where I'm at, where I want to be. Sereno says, boiler replacement shouldn't be the only concern. Replumbing the boiler should be just as important. Absolutely. I think that's all part of the equation. That's all part of the equation there, Sereno. You want to, when you're repiping, make sure it's all correct. Okay, because you want to do it the right way. Dave Yates says pump away. I think that might be one thing to look at in your job, John, is are we pumping away? If one zone constantly needs to be air bled and you're bleeding it out and you're not getting any air, that might be a pumping away problem. Okay. Very good. Very good. Where are the puppies? The puppies are upstairs. The puppies are upstairs. I was upstairs not too long ago before this webinar, and I saw the entire upstairs was covered with ripped to shreds paper, and I'm pretty sure my wife didn't do it. I'm suspecting the dogs, Frankie and Lola. I'm suspecting it was them. You did hear them barking. Yes, they are a little rambunctious. It's a 4-month-old, and they're now 4 months and 5 months old. Frankie and Lola. They're very, very cute, but they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Active. They're active little puppies. All right. Keep those questions coming here, gang. All right. Thanks for the presentation. It sharpened my focus. Thank you, Lanny. I appreciate your being here. Okay. Keep rambunctious and you a good fit. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Let me see if I can find something here for you if you just want to see the puppies. Here we go. Let's open up these pictures. And here you go. This one is, well, maybe you can't see. That's Lola. We'll get rid of that. That's not a really good picture of Lola. Let's see. Here we go. Here's Frankie and Lola right there. Frankie's the little black one. He's part poodle, part Cocker Spaniel, and Frankie right here is part Yorkie and part Maltese. That's my daughter Jackie. She's all Barba, and that's my wife Heidi back there in the corner, who's half Barba. But that's it. Those are my puppies. They're very cute. Okay. All right. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Dave, for being here. I appreciate it. All right, John Cavanaugh, thank you very much.